Hey everybody, welcome to How Ambition Uses Ambition, episode 3. I'm going to give everybody just a few minutes to come on in, and we'll go ahead and do intros while people are still trickling into the webinar. So this is a series that we launched about a month ago, and we really wanted to show people how we use our own product at Ambition in correlation with other products, in correlation with strategies to achieve a lot of the same goals that we share with both our customers and prospects alike. So how Ambition uses outreach and ambition to power our SDR team to record pipeline. So we recently hit a record pipeline month in the midst of all this crazy Corona times, and we wanted to show you how we did it, our strategy, our contest, our tech stack. And so I am going to help lead this. I'm Mary Foster, Director of Marketing at Ambition, and with me is Matt Wright on the Outbound Sales Development team.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for letting me be on here.
Thanks for joining me. So the agenda today, what we're going to cover are some common SDR team structures, inbound versus outbound, blended approaches, the importance of maximizing your SDR team. So kind of why you need to get it right and the total impact that the team can have on your organization. SDR activities and objectives that help you achieve the goals. So we're going to break down kind of not only like why it's important to have the team, what the team's supposed to do, but then how you can do that in activities and objectives and the tools and process that are required. There's a few different tools in our tool stack that we'll mention and kind of talk about, but the primary focus will be on using outreach and ambition, and we will talk about those other tools a little bit too. So SDR structure. So you've probably heard of it, inbound reps, outbound reps. Some reps are blended. They're supposed to handle inbound and outbound together. If you look at the bottom here, outbound SDR teams, 90% of them report to sales. So if you have an outbound team, it's likely that they're reporting to your sales team. If you look at having just an inbound team, only 53% report to sales. So a large number of those reporting to marketing because they're working those marketing leads. They're handling primarily just the inbounds from the site. So they may report to marketing, but still just over half do report to sales. If you have a blended team with reps that do inbound and outbound, either like a blended approach, or you have both inbound and outbound reps, 61% of those report to sales. So when you look at all that together, 65% overall do roll up to sales, but you may run across SDR teams that roll up to marketing or somewhere else. Another thing on this slide that I did want to cover really quickly about the structure of the SDR role is if you look at high growth companies versus laggard companies, you'll notice that laggard companies are much more likely to report that they don't utilize SDR teams. They're also more likely to report, if you look at the light blue band, that they do inbound only. So if you look at the high growth companies, you can see that they have a disproportionately more focus on outbound sales. And the reason this is because outbound SDRs are necessary to really accelerate growth. Those high growth companies understand it. When we talk about accelerate growth, it's really what we're talking about is pipeline, like building pipeline for your organization. So only 10% of companies can actually source more than 3/4 of their pipeline from inbound efforts. And that drops, the amount of marketing sourced pipeline drops the higher revenue you go. So if you look at the graph here on the right, you can really see in that light bluish green color the contribution that your outbound reps make. So if you're not doing outbound SDR, you're just relying on inbound marketing source pipeline, look at how much less pipeline you would be reporting. And so I'm curious if people on the line already do utilize outbound SDRs, outbound specifically at your org. So I'm going to drop a quick poll and just let us know, are you utilizing outbound SDRs at your organization? And if so, then it's great because you understand the importance of the role on building pipeline for your org. So we'll let that run for just a little second more here. Cool. All right, so I'm going to share the results. So 75% of people do utilize outbound SDRs, 25 not. Cool. All right, so Moving on, how are outbound SDRs actually building that pipeline? That's what we want to focus on today. You understand the importance, you see all the dollars. How are we going to do it? So I'm going to let Matt talk a little bit about our tech stack here and kind of just a high level breakdown of what we use to power.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. So yeah, as you guys can see, we have a handful of tools that we have in our outbound SDR tool belt. Chief among them, when I think of my Chrome tabs that are open, what's pinned there? Definitely Gmail, definitely my calendar app, and then immediately into Outreach and Ambition and LinkedIn Sales Navigator at all times. So to walk you through some of that, for any of our outbound calls that we're making, any of our outbound emails, those are going through Outreach. Outreach makes it super easy to queue up those tasks as part of a sequence, as part of an ongoing pursuit of a prospect, or be able to create them and send them one-off as needed. In terms of sales intelligence for us, going out, building these lists, finding these leads, 90% of that is really just digging through LinkedIn. That's the beauty of the outbound role, trying to find those golden nuggets out there. And Sales Navigator really helps us to find those prospects, but to build lists, making it easier to find them over time. So you're able to build a list for, a particular SDR's territory, break that list up by geography, by headcount of a certain department, and make it easy to go out there and pull new prospects and pull up that list as needed. The other 10%, if 90%'s us just finding on LinkedIn, the other 10% comes from things that marketing powers for us. Like G2, anytime a company is searching for something in our space where ambition falls in, whether that's gamification or coaching, we get a report and we are able to see what those companies are kind of looking into, and it hints to us that maybe we ought to reach out to this company. It's not a warm lead. They're not asking for a demo, so it goes route to us as an outbound rep, but we're reaching out to them knowing that, hey, this might be pretty serendipitous if we can get someone from whatever company on the line right now. And to go on from there, how do we visualize all these tasks that we're doing in Outreach? How do I know that I have enough prospects in sequence? What does all that look like? Well, Ambition powers that scorecard for us. So we're able to quickly and easily see, how am I pacing towards my KPIs? Do I need to be adding more prospects to sequence? Do I need to be pushing harder on an email front or call front? And then when there is a change that needs to be made, or you do need a boost, that's when this coaching comes in. We, of course, have regular one-on-ones with my manager once a week, where we'll actually pull call recordings from Outreach. Outreach makes it super easy to find a call, maybe one where I didn't quite get the close, or I did, one where I need to improve on a certain objection, or where I tried something new and I want to show off to my team lead or my manager. We're able to plug those into the Ambition coaching one-on-one and talk through those things super easily.
Thanks, Matt. One thing I do want to point out is how well we really do leverage outreach. So when you think about coaching or call coaching, sometimes you might use a chorus or a gong. I think that's great. But also if you're strapped, in terms of your tech stack spend, it's really cool that you can leverage outreach plus ambition together to do a wide range of things that you might consider as a more mature sales org. Maybe you do have a need to purchase other softwares or things like that, but you can actually get a lot done with just these right here, which I think is great. And so breaking down that SDR role into activities, you kind of have your quantity activities, like your quantity of dials or emails or LinkedIn connections. And then there's also a few quality metrics too, things like talk time and call connects. And so kind of wanted to show how we turn that into a scorecard here. And this is a live look at our outbound SDR scorecard. It has, you can see the benchmarks and targets for how many and how important those activities are. We can actually weight them so that our reps can try to achieve a score of 100 for the day. So what I'd love for Matt to talk about for you guys to kind of show, how do you break down your day to hit sequenced activities, outbound calls, make sure you're getting call connects and achieving your talk time. So if you could kind of walk us through blitzes or whatever your day is like.
Yeah, I think the way my day looks really depends on whether or not that particular day, we're running a call blitz at Ambition. One of the biggest generators for our outbound activity is when we do run a call blitz. And for example, today is Tuesday. We have an afternoon blitz every Tuesday. So this morning, I'm planning for that blitz. I'm finding new prospects to be able to call this afternoon. I'm making sure that everyone's moving through my sequences and outreach so that I have as many calls queued up for that blitz as possible. Thursday's the same way. Thursday's a morning blitz. So that way we get some variation when we're calling. And that's the same way. You'll see lots of dials. You'll see hopefully lots of connects and talk time on Tuesday and Thursday, really dictated by when that blitz is running and how long we're running it for. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, what I try to do is really follow the lead of our team lead, Andy Dewey. He taught us a lot about golden hours, when's the best time to be calling. So we try to catch people, in the past as they're headed into the office, now just as they're starting their workday before the meetings get going, 8 to 9:30, maybe their local time, and try them again in the afternoon. Typically is the two best golden hours to be calling. I have seen, in these Corona times, people are, at home when they are ending the workday. So you do have to be pretty careful about calling after hours. Typically where I'd call a little bit later into the night, you have to be mindful of people, not just SDRs, not just marketing folks, but everyone in the spectrum. The line is really blurring between when you're on for work and when you're off. But if you can catch someone in between meetings, hopefully make the most of that time that you do have there. Now, for the sequenced activities here, what that translates to for us is emails sent out. And it is just a great way for me to know if I have enough prospects rolling in sequence. If I take a look at my scorecard and I see I'm behind on that 50 activity benchmark, I know that I probably need to be adding in new prospects into my sequences. Because what that tells me is that I'm not sending enough automated or manual emails out that day. And in order to stick with the goals that I have set out, I need to be making sure that front end of my pipeline, if you will, from an SDR perspective, is being filled with new prospects and new folks to reach out to.
Quick question on that, Matt. So how do you find the new prospects? And we did get one really good question of not everyone knows what G2 is. Can you talk a little bit about two questions? What your G2 list actually is, and how, when you know you need prospects, how do you find them?
Absolutely. Yeah, so G2 is just a peer review site where any users of a software can go in and review that software. So it makes a great resource for companies or sales leaders that are looking for new tools to fill out their tech stack. They're able to easily search by topic and find, if they're searching for gamification, they're going to find Ambition and other players in our space. And so for my end, what I see is the name of a company that searched for a particular query in G2. And then it's my job to put on my outbound SDR hat and hop in LinkedIn and start digging around on that particular account, looking for the right people to reach out to. And how do I build those lists? What am I looking for? Well, here at Ambition, we're broken up into territory and headcount, employee size. So I'm looking for accounts or companies that fall into my domain there, and looking to see if they have, an outbound or inbound sales function. How large is that function? Do they have the titles that we like to be talking to? Am I finding VPs of sales and sales managers? Am I finding sales operations folks, sales enablement or training managers? Or one of my new favorites, revenue ops, owning, a lot of that conversation. And then from there, using Zoom Info, there's a lot of other tools out there to pull that prospect information. We use Zoom Info. And within 2 or 3 clicks, you're able to, from the prospect's LinkedIn page, add them directly to whatever sequence you want them to be added to in your outreach. And then from there, it's a matter of pulling up outreach and making the calls, making the emails.
Thank you for that. Cool. And then, one thing to call out too on the call connects and the talk time, those are kind of those quality metrics like we talked about. So let's pretend, Matt, that you hit above and beyond your outbound dials. You hit 60 dials, but you only had 2 call connects. Do you keep going to get more connects? and more talk time, or how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and something we focus on as we are designing these scorecards, as we're tweaking them. Your activity scorecard should capture what is in your rep's control. What are the things your rep can actually do to impact that number? What is in their control? So while call connects and talk time are somewhat out of my control, we don't have a cap on how many outbound calls we can make to impact our scorecard. So if I'm struggling to get that last connect or bump up my talk time, absolutely, I will make some more dials and try to get those numbers there. And that way, even if I'm not connecting, even if I'm not talking to enough people, I'm able to put in the extra time and still get my activity to 100 and show I am putting in the effort. I'm doing what it takes to get that last connect. And we have the pleasure of calling sales leaders and pitching sales leaders. So I know when I've been calling at 6 p.m. Eastern and they answer, and towards the end of the call, they find out that I'm on Eastern time and they're asking, why are you calling me right now? Why are you still calling? Like, go home. I say, well, on my activity score, I'm one connect away and you just got me to 100. And in a couple of seconds here, my activity score 100 is going to pop up in our team Slack, and I'm going to get a little bit of recognition for that. So totally worth staying the extra hour to make that happen.
That's awesome. I love that. And, a couple other places for prospects that may come up for you or other people, our team in particular, we host a lot of webinars. So you may work webinar leads, you may work referrals. Are there any things that you want to speak to about that people should know about?
Yeah, I think anytime you get a referral, you have to capitalize on it. That's a gold mine. The sooner the better. Outreach makes it easy to mark when I'm on a conversation with somebody and they've referred me to another person in their organization. I mark that particular call as a referral, and I'll make sure to follow up on that with that new person as quickly as possible, saying so-and-so pointing in your direction. With webinar leads or any, these increasingly common virtual events that we're a part of, anytime we get leads from that, as an outbound SDR, that is as warm a lead as I'm going to get, unless I've created an opportunity for it to be warmer. So I think it's Beck Collin from Chorus who calls those postbound leads. They're not quite inbound, they're not quite outbound. And they're really worth spending a little bit extra time. As long as that particular prospect is in my ICP, they're the right person for me to be talking to. If they engaged with something from our brand, I want to take the extra time to personalize that just a little bit more to really catch their attention and drive that messaging home. So I'll use the webinar as an excuse to reach out, like reaching out because I saw that you attended our How Ambition Uses Ambition webinar. But more importantly, I see on your LinkedIn that regularly holding one-on-one coaching sessions with your reps is important to you. What if you could do that better, XYZ? So anytime I get webinar leads, you want to jump on those as an outbound rep.
Awesome. And so now I'm going to flip over and kind of show a look at a little bit of a dashboard view in outreach. So this is kind of what Matt's outreach looks like. And you hear him talk about making calls, loading in prospects. And so we wanted to show you a little bit about the interface with outreach and kind of how you use it. So what are we looking at here, Matt?
Yeah, so this is just your starting dashboard in outreach. This very quickly lets you know what tasks you have queued up for this week, what are the breakdown of those tasks. And so you can see we're highlighted here for 88 calls. That looks like a great queue for a call blitz this afternoon. I hope mine looks like that right now. If we go on to the next page, I can show you what that looks like once you've clicked into this call. So we're on task 1 of those 88, 89 calls, and it's going to pull up all of that prospect's information that's stored in outreach. So that is email, that is phone, and this page in here is very customizable. So if your team uses particular cues to reach out to someone, if there's a certain topic on LinkedIn that they talk about, you're able to put that information here and make it really easy to know everything you need to know about Adam Kahn, shout out customer of ours, before you call Adam. And you'll see, click the number, it starts dialing, you log the call right there. And there's a lot of customization you can do for the disposition of those calls. Did you leave a voicemail? Was it a no answer? Did you get caught up with a gatekeeper? And then from there, if you did connect with them, what was the end result of that call? And it makes it really easy to organize the outcome of those calls and pull those up. So on this right side here, you see this is one particular account, 26 calls to this account, 16 of them were no answers, 10 of them were something else, including follow-ups or referrals, or in this case, finally getting that much desired meeting set. And if you go to the next page, I can show you what the emailing side of that looks like. Outreach has a lot of insights around engagement with the emails, and this can get really fun. And as a rep, gets you really, really excited when you start to see 6 opens or 3 opens and a link click. If you look there in the middle, that's what those symbols are showing you. That's letting you know that this prospect is engaging with that particular email that you're sending out. And it gives you updates in real time as to who is opening what emails, how many times you're opening it, et cetera. So we actually have a trigger set up. If a particular prospect opens an email 2 or 3 times, Outreach will create a task for us to immediately give them a call, because we want to jump on that opportunity. We know they're looking at us, we know the name's fresh in their mind, might as well give them a call right then. I don't necessarily say that, hey, I saw you're looking at my email, but definitely just reach out to try to capitalize on that timing. And then if you're looking at the right here, this is just a quick glimpse into what sequences look like. And it shows you the analytics and the insights on that particular email, how many opens, what percentage, how many of those are applying. So it makes it easy to A/B test as a rep, makes it easy to know what emails are working and what's not. Yeah.
And so can you explain a little bit how this works with your ambition scorecard? So when you make a dial, do you go log that in your scorecard, or is it automated to your scorecard? Same thing with email. I know the answer, but not everyone here does.
Yeah, a loaded question, right? No, it is definitely automatic, and that is my favorite part. When I'm in a call blitz, I don't have to do anything extra other than what I'm already being asked to do, which is make that call and outreach. And having ambition tacked into that adds this layer of recognition to that effort I'm already putting in that doesn't require any extra effort or extra tool fatigue for me as a rep. And so when I'm making those calls, as soon as I'm logging them, they're showing up in my ambition scorecard. And I know that when I'm on a call blitz and trying to beat Andy Dewey on that particular call blitz, I want to stay on this phone a little bit longer to get that talk time metric going up. How can I ask better questions, be more engaging with this prospect to get that talk time up? Because I know that's logging points into that call blitz in real time or showing up on my scorecard.
And what's cool internally at our organization just around the scoring is that everyone has visibility into it. We can see how the SDRs are performing on their score when the triggers come in. We have them on a Slack. Some people choose to put them on sales TVs or both. So you can kind of really recognize and shout out your SDRs when they are hitting their score. They don't have to do anything to publish their score or share their score. It's all automated and just adds a level of recognition, which is really cool. But all of that activity is for not, if we're not talking about the objectives and what we're really trying to achieve by making dials, emails, LinkedIn connections. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about common objectives for the sales development role. And introductory meetings, semi-qualified opportunities, fully qualified opportunities, maybe a ratio of meeting sets to qualified ops or pipeline. Those are all kind of some objectives that SDR teams really measure and track. And so that's often also the compensation model. And I'll share a link to this report. It's the Bridge Group SDR metric report. It comes out every year. I'll drop it in the chat here in a second, but talks about, how sales development reps are compensated. And so 37% reported that they compensate their reps on setting introductory meetings. So the introductory meeting model is like someone who is the right person, the right company, and they're at least curious about hearing more. Like they may not have been qualified for BANT or PACT or whatever model you use, but they're interested in hearing more about what you do. Versus a fully qualified opportunity down here at the bottom, 32%. Again, it's probably not fully qualified for all of budget, authority, need, timing, but they at least have a pain and they're saying that they're willing to hear more about how you could address it. It's a little bit more qualified than just oh oh yeah, I'm interested in learning more. And it's such a subtle difference, but depending on your AE's calendars, like if they just need more at bats and more meetings, like you should go for the introductory meeting model. Like this person's interested, versus if you really have to make the most of their time, their calendars are full, you guys are measuring for efficiency, maybe it's fully qualified, with semi-qualified kind of being like somewhere in the middle. And and that's one cool thing about the ambition scorecard and the way we measure objectives, is that you can kind of do a combination approach. So, we have introductory meeting set being part of it, and whether or not they convert to qualified opportunities and how much pipeline this created. And that just kind of ensures that you're getting credit for setting the introductory meetings, but also the quality of the meetings and how they pass on through the funnel. And one cool thing that just came through, speaking of pipeline being an objective, one of our actual outbound reps, Andy Dewey, just received the ambition accolade for creating 3 million in pipeline this year. So first of all, shout out Dewey on our team. Second of all, that's just one more cool automated tracking thing that Ambition does. It tracks how much pipeline and can fire out those alerts. So wanted to show that off. The next thing we wanted to talk about, we've talked a little bit about how Matt structures his day into the activities and the objectives that we hope to come out of a meeting. We just want a meeting. And so I wanted Matt to share an example of a real pursuit, how it goes from activity to objective with like a real prospect.
Awesome. So as you can see here, we're looking at the timeline of this particular pursuit. We're starting back in 2019. It's December. The world is pretty normal. And we're looking ahead to June 2020 is when finally we get that sweet meeting set. So to start, I found a VP of sales at this particular company. It was a large logistics organization. And I got really lucky, and he answered on the very first cold call, which isn't always how that goes, but I was able to talk to this VP of sales on the first call, give him the quick pitch, and it's December, so you might imagine he says follow up in January, and I say I'd be happy to do that. So fast forward to January, I've called him, I've emailed him, nothing's working. My emails, of course, are the typical, hey, you told me to reach out now, do you want to talk? So I decided to get a little bit more creative, a little bit more tactical. I see that not only is this particular VP of sales a Chicago Blackhawks fan, he happens to be a former player himself. And I'm a huge hockey fan, so I had to jump on this as a chance to catch his attention and bring him back to the table. And our goalie happened to score, not the Nashville Predators, goalie happened to score a goal the night before against the Chicago Blackhawks. I had to use that. I said something along the lines of, I'm sure you hate that result. You have to appreciate the goal, having been a goalie yourself. Oh, by the way, we were talking about these topics last year. Is this still relevant to you? And that does get his attention. What it gets me is a no. We don't have the budget. We can't do this right now. But that's a win. You get the no, I can stop reaching out to him. Unfortunately, his title, VP of Sales, made me think he was the guy. And so I stopped reaching out to this organization for a little while. Here's where marketing comes in. I check our reports to see if any prospects are opening or engaging emails from our marketing team. And I happened to see that a sales manager at this same organization was poking around in some of our marketing emails. And he was looking at gamification templates, specifically, how do you run good contests and things like that. So I thought, even if his boss says now is not the right time, maybe I can at least offer, a helping hand to this particular sales manager. I'll give him a call and find out. He says no to a meeting, but he does say who you need to talk to is actually our Montreal team, our Canadian team, which completely blew my mind. I thought this VP of sales was the guy. Turns out there's a whole nother piece of this organization that should be reaching out to. And this starts just the traditional cold calling approach of the SDR world. Talk to a few people, get a couple of no's, and finally talk to VP of global sales who was open to taking the meeting. So it just took a lot of fishing for the right people, a lot of cold calls, a lot of no's, but that's always part of the process. And overall, we're looking at 6 or 7 months here to get this one meeting.
That's so awesome. And I think a big thing that stands out to me hearing that story is like how much data does power the outbound efforts. And like, it is cold calling, it is outbound dialing, but there's also a lot of data and insight behind it, which hopefully just puts the wind at your back a little bit. And one other thing, I love seeing that meeting set in June 2020, our best month ever. So I want to talk a little bit about too, you have your scorecards, and that's an example of what some people would consider gamification in the SDR role. But then there's also just sales contest. And so one contest we ran was head-to-head poker, and we actually have a template for it and some other contests that you can get at ambition.com/templates. There's contest templates, scorecard templates, all kinds of things to see other people are doing it. But I wanted to see, Matt, if you would talk a little bit about the poker contest and kind of just your take on contests in general, how they help, how they hurt, and how they helped us get our best month ever.
Yeah, I would be happy to. And I loved the poker contest. I have to say, I didn't win the poker contest, but I still loved it. Shout out to Brett Longwell. I believe he was the winner of this particular contest. Where competitions can go wrong is when you have one particular rep that can dominate the field and keep winning. I think not only does a competition that feels unfair not just not motivate you to hit a goal, it actually demotivates you. It makes you want to do less, because if I'm not going to be recognized for the effort I'm doing, why try? And I think we tackled this really, really well. A lot of teams have standout SDR or sales superstars that really run their team or are on the top of the leaderboards for their team. We're no different. In fact, I think we have quite a great example of a superstar on our team who could run up the score on us, but we come up with super creative ways to level this playing field. This particular poker contest, we had a variety of goals, whether it was hitting dial goals, setting meetings, getting qualified meetings. They all gave you a chance at drawing more cards to build out your poker hand. So even if the best rep had 20 cards, he has a better odds of having a better hand, but there's no guarantee that that particular rep was the winner. So contests like this that leave some of it up to odds, make it fun, it makes it feel like a game, but it also gives a chance for every rep on the team, as long as they're contributing at a particular level, they're able to be a part of this competition and stay engaged and be engaged by it. And I think where competitions win is when the more recognition that you get or can get for that competition. I think about, we have such a great recognition culture here at Ambition, in part thanks to the tool, in part thanks to the mindset of the people that are on our particular team. But when I know that I'm able to show the impact that I have as a rep on something bigger than myself, in this case, our company, then that feels really good. If I'm able to see that value and know that others are recognizing the value that I bring, that feels good as a human, and it feels good as an outbound rep where I'm trying to create value where previously there wasn't any.
Awesome. So I do want to encourage everybody to go to ambition.com/templates, see if there's a template for you that you want to use. I also dropped in the chat just a blog post, kind of a running list of contest ideas, because we ran sales poker last time. Now we're running, what's the name of the spin the wheel contest?
I was going to say, well, it's the spin the wheel contest.
Okay, the spin the wheel contest template coming soon. But I know we're about at time here. I do want to open it up if there are any questions. A couple came in, and one, shame on me, that the opening question was, hey, what does SDR stand for? And so, as evidenced by the first slide, there's a great number of organizations that actually don't utilize SDRs, and what that stands for is Sales Development Representative. Some people call them BDRs, so Business Development Representative. It could go by a variety of names, but essentially it's someone who's helping develop business for your organization, either taking those inbound leads if you're an inbound SDR, or making outbound dials. Cold calling is the common association for outbound SDRs. So I overlooked that, and my bad. But I did want to see if there were any other questions that came in. And I don't think there are. So what we'll do is send out the recording to everybody. We'll do a wrap-up recap on the blog that'll have all the links to the templates, these contest ideas, and the metrics that we shared, again, came from the Bridge Group report. So we'll link out to that too, because it's a great resource to share benchmarks for how many dials reps usually make, how many emails they usually send, what the common compensation is. So if you're thinking about better leveraging outbound SDRs for your organization, it kind of just gives you some good benchmarks. And thanks to everyone for joining, and we will see you next time. Bye.